If you look at Genesis 1:1 in its original language, you'll see that it's made of 7 words, which is prophetic in its own right. But let's translate each of these words. In the beginning, created God the heavens and the earth. But then what's this word? It doesn't have a clear translation, but the 2 letters in the Hebrew alphabet are Aleph and Tav. Aleph is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and Tav is the last letter. Who's the beginning and end of all things? According to Revelation 1:8, Jesus is. To put it into words we might understand better, Alpha and Omega is the Greek version of Aleph and Tav, because Alpha and Omega is the first and last letters in the Greek alphabet. So if the phrase Alpha and Omega, or Aleph and Tav, depending on the language, is a name for Jesus, then it's safe to assume that the inclusion of the Aleph and Tav in Genesis 1:1 is a picture of Jesus. We already know that he was in the beginning of creation according to John 1:1. This is just more evidence of his eternal presence and glory. Let's go deeper with the Aleph and Tav. The Aleph symbol in the ancient Hebrew language was shaped like an ox's head. Why? There's a couple reasons. First, an ox would pull things, but only after being attached to a yoke. A yoke is this thing. Now, there are plenty of examples in the Bible of Jesus bearing the weight of our sins and burdens, but I like Matthew 11:28 through 30, which spells it out for us. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Secondly, an ox was an animal used in Jewish sacrifices. So who's the sacrifice who will bear our burdens? Jesus. So that's Aleph, but what about Tav? Well, just look at it. It looks like a cross, and this was long before crucifixion was even invented. It's like God knows what's going to happen or something. And I totally encourage you to go look up all this for yourself, but do keep in mind that if you want to look this up, you need to look up the original Hebrew written language, not the modern written language. I also want to add that the Aleph and Tav is littered throughout the Old Testament over 7,000 times, but we don't typically notice because there's no simple way to translate it. Here are a couple examples though. Exodus 3:3, and Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. Exodus 14:13, and Moses said to the people, Fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. Deuteronomy 6:5, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Let's go back to Genesis 1:1 real quick. You may notice that the Aleph and Tav actually appear a second time. It's translated as the word and in the verse to join heaven and earth. Is this making sense yet? Jesus was not only in the beginning, but he was also prophesied to join heaven and earth through his death as a sacrifice on the cross. And God tells us all this with 2 letters.